Hey, I'm Helen Young-McLaughlin, and welcome back to Leading from the Middle. You might also hear me talk about this. I sometimes say 23 and 23 because this year I'm taking the opportunity to connect with 23 different leaders. And I want to learn a little bit more about what they think companies can do to help transform their middle managers into their most valuable asset. And I do this by asking one question. But before I get started on that, I want to introduce our guest this week, and it's Laurie Arron, and she is the CEO of Arron Coaching, executive coach and trusted advisor to senior executives. Is that right, Laurie?
That's right.
Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be a part of your project and really honored that you reached out.
Well, can you share with us, Lori, a little bit more about what you do and maybe even a snippet of some of the work you've done before you started your own company?
You bet. I'm happy to. Yes, as you said, I'm an executive coach and trusted advisor to senior leaders now. I spent almost 31 years with AT&T. So I grew up at AT&T. I learned who I was as a leader and saw wonderful, rich opportunities through the course of my career. Lived in 6 different cities and took many different assignments that had different challenges associated with them. And I'm very, very grateful for all of what they invested in me because it really enabled me to show up in the world today as a coach. I take so much of my experience from AT&T and share with my clients. It helps me coach and have that real life experience in addition to coaching methods and coaching tools.
Right.
It's always nice to have a practical set of experience. So that is my background. I am all AT&T, and now I show up as an executive coach. My audience, the people that I get to serve, are typically SVPs or senior leaders, C-suite, and their chiefs of staff. I had an opportunity to serve at AT&T as a chief of staff at the senior level and learned so many wonderful golden lessons that now I've really created a business that serves that dynamic between a leader and his or her number two.
Well, people are lucky to have you as a coach, I'm sure. And if I asked a few of your clients, I'm sure they would speak very highly of you. So thank you for taking the time. Your wisdom is really going to be, I think, incredibly helpful to anybody who's listening in today. And so we have one question that I'm asking each person I connect with, and that is, what is one thing that companies need to pay more attention to when it comes to developing their managers?
It's such a powerful question. And it would be very easy to just, oh, let me answer that. And here's the bottom line. It's not easy. It's a very powerful question that I think companies should sit with and evaluate in ways that inform what's best for them. So the first thing that comes to my mind is companies creating environments that really value the unique skills and strengths of each of their managers, of each of their team members. In this way, you really leverage the superpower of each of these unique individuals. And then when you put together a full team composition, you're really able to drive more, I think, innovation and creativity, success, results by looking at the unique value that each individual brings. And, while some companies, I think, do this quite well, I think it's very safe to say that we can all do more of it at every level within the organization.
I love the word unique because there is not a one size fits all when it comes to developing someone, right?
Right.
And
That's
so
great.
so if we think of individuals, not only like, hey, the way I learn might be a little bit different than how you learn, but when we see people as individuals and we connect their strengths to it, what can happen from a development standpoint, do you think?
Well, gosh, I think when the right person is in the right role and has the right assignment or challenge ahead of them, so many things are possible. I don't know how often companies actually take the time to think about that placement. I'm also very, very big in my business. I do a lot of self-assessment tools, looking at the psychometrics around leaders, young performers. When you really take a look at a data-driven approach to what type of leader a person is, how they consume information, how they engage with others, how they approach problems, how they make decisions. When you really look at all of those types of attributes as a leader, you can build the composition of a team in a way that really amplifies the overall performance. In some of my experience, I have seen teams get formed where there's a lot of duplication. Say the manager or the overall leader might go hire a lot of people like them, because that's an easy thing to do, but it's kind of a cop-out, because then you have a bunch of people around you that just validate you or think in a certain way. I think it's one of the biggest opportunities we have to really think broadly about what is the mission, what's this thing we're going after, what's the initiative, and then what kind of a team do we need to build with what set of unique skills to best accomplish that, or to most powerfully accomplish that. And I think that is a very intentional process that we should give time and oxygen to as leaders.
Ooh, I love that. Time and oxygen. I'm going to write that down and keep that at my desk. I like that, those pairings. I also like, Laurie, what you're talking about, at least what I think I'm pulling into my space anyways, is the need for companies, senior leaders, to really stop and think first. I'm hearing that. Like, we have to stop and ask ourselves a few questions.
Yes.
Then from there, we can start to consider, what is this person's superpower? What are their strengths? But
that's right.
Let's be fair. The world is going at 100 miles an hour these days. Not only that, we also have a lot of concerns of layoffs and things. So there's a lot of reactionary components happening in work environments right now.
Right.
And companies, senior leaders aren't necessarily taking the pause to ask themselves these questions. So how do you do that? How do we start?
I think you have brought up something so important. It shows up in my coaching all the time, every day with clients. And it really is, I think, fostering a culture of communication and collaboration. Really, as senior leaders, modeling what open communication looks like, modeling what a collaborative environment looks like. And I think you said it so well. The currency behind all of that is the power of questioning. We do a lot in this world of tell, but we don't show enough. And I think we have to think about, how are people going to learn? So modeling collaborative environments, asking questions, inviting opinions, sharing best practices, maybe having team building activities, and really creating an environment for all of the ideation to be shared, I think, is a really powerful way to ask questions and create communications and a collaborative environment. And I think, why is all of that important? Because when you have collaboration, it drives innovation. And when you have innovation, you're really driving toward powerful results. So I think there's a cost in not having an open environment. And, questions are a very big part of coaching, as you know, and sometimes the answers to what we're looking for are in the question.
Absolutely. And when I think back, so I have a program called the Leverage Academy, where it's typically about 10 managers, from the same company, that are learning to build specific skills so that they can have greater retention. They can have succession, the company can have succession planning. And so that the company is actually investing in those managers, because we know that going from an individual contributor to management requires different skill sets, and figuring it out as you go isn't the solution for sustainability. So when you think back to, starting out as a manager, or some, maybe some of your clients have people that are going into management, where did they get started in just asking the questions? I mean, it's easy to say, okay, sit back and ask some questions, get clarity first, and then guide towards the development part around strengths. But it can get really tricky in the beginning to kind of bridge those two, going from individual contributor to manager. Tell me more about what you see works.
I think as human beings, we are wired to make things more complex. And when we make things more complex, it makes that which we're trying to achieve harder, and it takes longer to get there. Mm-hmm. So I think to your question specifically, when somebody moves from being a manager to perhaps a senior leader or overseeing a larger organization, operating with that simple, direct mindset, what would this look like if it were easy? What are the next indicated actions? And just to literally understand, what is it that I'm trying to achieve, and what questions should I ask myself that will help me get there, and then turn down all the other noise. It really comes down to focus. I know for me personally, I had many mistakes, right? Many sets of mistakes, or many failures, if you will. And I believe in failing forward. I believe in going out and making those mistakes. If the risk is low, go learn from that, and then apply that to your bucket of learning. And the more you learn, the more you're prepared to lead. There's no shame in failing or getting, an outcome that maybe you didn't want.
Right.
If you lose the lesson, then shame on you. So, I like you probably, I love to read and I love to learn, and I'm always listening to a podcast that will teach me something that I don't know. And I realized in the middle of my career that it's the application of those learnings that's so important. Otherwise, we become just, data junkies.
Right.
And if you're not going to apply what you're learning and test it out, perhaps in this case in a business environment, then why read the book at all?
Absolutely. And this is one of the things in the Leverage Academy, where we take the learnings from that hour and a half that we're in a group together, and you can directly apply that to your role immediately following. Yes. Because otherwise we're going to lose it. I mean, they say we lose like 50% or maybe even more of the information that we learn if we don't do anything with it within the first hour after learning it. So I love if we can stop and think about the power of curiosity and questions. It's actually something that took me a long time to realize was super important. Nobody early in my career said, hey, ask yourself a few questions, or hey, let's get curious about this. Let's take 15 minutes or 2 hours if needed. And let's really, it was very reactive. Like, we got to get it done. Let's go. It's reactive. And that's exhausting. That leads to burnout.
Oh, no question. And the other thing that I think we overlook, at least we commonly overlook as middle managers and even senior leaders, is that there's a big part of leadership that simply requires common sense. It's just like, tap into that logic that tells you, how do I go do X, Y, Z? Mm-hmm. If you are not a subject matter expert and you don't literally know how to go do it, wouldn't your common sense say, okay, who should I go talk to that's an expert in that field that I can invest 15 minutes with, the outcome of which will make me a lot smarter on this topic? If you don't have someone like that in your network, then who would know someone in that area of expertise that I can tap into? But my point here is, I think we can easily overlook that the common sense in us is pretty darn sharp. And when we tap into it, that's what made you become a manager anyway. You got there probably because of your common sense that don't lose your access to that.
Yeah.
It's a
we
great
do overcomplicate things, right?
Right.
We overcomplicate things. I use the example that we need reminders, and we need the reminders of the basics sometimes to give us a reset. I mean, think about every year, we get reminders of how to eat healthy, of wear our sunscreen. And sometimes we're like, okay. Oh yeah, actually I do need to remind myself of this. And I use that inside my program and working with my clients to be able to say, let's take 3 steps back. What are some simple steps? And I'll tell you the number one, and it ties directly to what you're talking about, is the power of the pause.
100% agree. And what a great coach I used to work with, he was my coach, used to say, slow down to speed up, slow down to speed up. We are, again, wired, or I am type A, Enneagram 1, wired to go take action, put it in the end zone. Yep. Much of my success in my career, conventional success, was built on me doing just that. But I think there's also a time as we become more wise and mature as leaders that slowing down, to your point, the power of the pause gives you the opportunity to have a lot more context show up.
Right.
And you have access to more information, data, common sense to move forward. And that has been a very powerful thing for me. And in fact, I think it's changed my life.
Wow.
I use it with my kids a lot. I have teenagers, and they're probably sick of mommy coaching them, but even a teenager can embrace the whole concept of slow down to speed up.
Right. And that's really, if I'm kind of pulling all of this full circle, where we started with that was, first, companies, senior leaders need to stop and ask themselves some questions. That requires the power of the pause. Hey, how are we developing our managers currently? What is working? What's the data that should, these are just things off the top of my head I'm thinking about.
And even more fundamentally, what does the talent of our organization look like? What is the makeup? We have a lot of people who are making this up. Maybe we're really deep on engineers, or maybe we're really deep on marketing people. But I would say start by taking inventory of, understand the unique skills and strengths of your leadership team. Use the assessment tools. Get feedback from different peers or leaders that have worked with those team members. Look at past performance reviews. That will give you, it's sort of like, before you can tell where you're going, look where you are on the map.
Yes.
Where I would start.
And I just had this beautiful visual too when you said that. And that connects me to what you just said around the unique skills and strengths. Okay. Yes. And let's get a little diverse in how we approach things. Right. The team members that we bring into our conversations, if they're not on our team, let's seek out, some diversity from other groups to help us expand. I get all excited. You and I could talk all day long, but thank you, because I think this is really important. I like how you broke that down, which is, first, take inventory. If you're going to stop, take inventory, be mindful, be thoughtful. I'm going to say insert the pause, and then assess those unique skills and strengths. That you also mentioned superpowers earlier. At the end of the day, everybody has skills and strengths. We need to be able to tap into them as managers and leaders, and help the middle managers who might not be as confident. Do you agree? Give them the support and encouragement that they need in order to strengthen and develop those skills more effectively.
Well, and I think that absolutely, and that ties to that, creating a culture of open communication and collaboration through the form of powerful questions. So when you create a really diverse team of gender and race and age and background, you end up having a whole set of expertise that you simply couldn't get without it. And why is that important? Companies will make better decisions. They'll move faster. They'll drive better results the best thing that senior leaders can do is model that for the middle managers. Ask questions, be inquisitive, ask them what they think, play with it, hold it all lightly, and see where you land. And I see that, and when I see that, it's a really beautiful thing, Helen.
I just want to pause it right there. And I'm going to go back and rewind and listen to that last part you just said, because that was powerful. At the end of the day, everybody rewind back. I'm going to pull this snippet out anyways. But Laurie, I thought that was fantastic. And thank you for sharing your insights. Can you let us know if people want to learn more about your work and how to find you, where would they go?
Sure, happy to. So lauriearron.com, LaurieArron. That's my website. I'm also fairly active on LinkedIn, and I'm excited to say I have a book coming out this summer that speaks to the clients that I get to serve and support, the senior leaders and chiefs of staff. So
congratulations. That's so exciting. Awesome. You know, I'm going to get a copy of that, right? So
you're going to get a good one.
ready.
Yes.
Maybe a signed copy.
Oh gosh, with pleasure, with pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us and tuning in to another interview of Leading from the Middle. I'm really looking forward to hearing some feedback from you. I want to connect with you. You can connect with me directly on LinkedIn at Helen Young-McLaughlin. Just hit that hyphen in between Young and McLaughlin, or you can go to my website at helenyoungcoaching.com. Thanks again and have a great day.